Welcome to the SuccessFlow Podcast, where our mission is simple: to be better each day and relay our findings with other relentless humans defining success for themselves. If that sounds like you, let's begin. All right, welcome to the SuccessFlow Podcast, where our goal is to relay stories and highlights of mission-driven high performers for high performers. We want to help individuals find their purpose and create a life of flow to define their own success. I'm joined with my co-host, Stephen Harris. How's it going, brother?
Not much, man. How are you? What's up, dude? I'm so excited to collaborate with you on this podcast. We've been talking about it for a long time, and we both have so much different things going on, and it's a lot of fun to get together and talk about. A lot of crossover too. And how long have we known each other now? We've 15 years, I think, something like that.
If I carry the two, yeah, like we're going on like 17 or 14, 15 years. Back in the master tax days, our first real big boy jobs.
Yeah.
I think like as we were entering the professional world, we were kind of figuring things out. It was my first, role coming out of an internship and going full time, and I kind of vowed that I wasn't going to be friends with you. I believe back in those early days at MasterTax.
Yeah, you kind of stereotyped me a little bit, being my dad's son coming into his company, But I just want to put this out there. I didn't want the job for like a year. It had to do with payroll and taxes, and it sounded horrible at the time. But, my wife, who was my girlfriend back then, she is much smarter than I am and nudged me to take action on it because it aligned, right? I wanted to get into sales, and my dad had been asking me for a year, and I was like, all right, well, thanks, Dad, but I'm not going to let you down. You just work your tail off to be successful at it. But I remember walking in and seeing you. I was like, all right, well, we got another young buck like me, 21, 22 years old in this corporate game. We'll see how this goes. But I think it was the first time outside the office. We were at Oktoberfest, Tempe Town Lake, and I'm wearing my hat backwards, probably cocked to the side with my Hurley hoodie or something. And I'm like, Phil, and you were ready to fight. You were ready to fight.
I definitely went into a little fight or flight there because I didn't recognize you. I look around and I see you coming in a hoodie and those oversized Oakley's backwards hat, not looking like you normally did. And out of nowhere, screaming from my peripheral, you came out of nowhere. And I was a little caught off guard there, but that was the first outside, like first time we hung out outside of the office. And I can definitely remember that. I think that there was a couple other social events after that we wound up running into each other too before it actually set in that we were going to be friends.
Yeah, I think the stars aligned at the Christmas party, and we had a dance off, and from that point forward, we've been running pretty tight ever since. So I love it. Like I said, I'm glad to kick this thing off, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, the dance party, again, things that we got thrown into against our will, but I'm pretty sure it started with the YMCA, and then as people were eliminated, it wound up with you doing the worm and me doing like a mixture of a Michael Jackson Irish jig to take home the victory in that dance-off.
Oh, you definitely took home the victory. You got some sort of gift card or something. I think it was like big bucks too, right? Like $50.
It was a Home Depot gift card, $50.
Heck yeah!
And yeah, I think not being the boss's son helped me in that.
Yeah,
they couldn't give it to you, so I think I won. I think I had an edge there.
There was no collusion in the dance-off, that's for sure. But you were domesticated now. What was your first purchase? Home Depot, 21 years old. What are you buying at Home Depot?
Yeah, so it was a shower head, a waterfall shower head. The thing was amazing. I think that was the only thing custom in that apartment that I had at the time.
Look at you. You're growing up before our eyes.
I know.
It's awesome.
Fast forward 15 years. Here we are, and I mean, most recently, we've been in a mastermind together, which we're going to kind of chat through, and it's really kind of the brainchild of this whole thing, given the event that we had with that mastermind. But since you invited me, why don't you tell us and walk us through a little bit about Junto and that mastermind that we both most recently joined?
Yeah, man. I mean, this mastermind, I joined about 2.5 years ago. So this is October, November 2020, something like that. And really, I got invited. We started it, and I got invited in by a couple other guys that I knew throughout, my networking and different local things. But the idea is to collectively come together, be equal partners, vested in this group to grow ourselves personally and professionally. And I remember going to this group. I'm like, man, I don't know what this is. Like, I do a lot of networking to gain referrals for my business, but I wanted something higher and more, personally to grow as a leader and as a business owner. So I joined this group. We're about 3-4 months in, maybe 6 months in. And I remember talking to you about it. And, I'm like, hey, Phil, I'm part of this mastermind group. It's called Junto. And you're like, whoa, wait, what? You knew exactly what I wanted. As soon as I said the word Junto, you had like the whole backstory with Benjamin Franklin and all this stuff that, I was just learning about. And I think we were at the Valley Oop game watching the Suns playoffs.
Yeah, we were at Bevy. It was the Suns game. And you called that Valley Oop out of nowhere to Ayton.
That goes back to the basketball days, man. I don't remember hugging more random dudes that night. That was so fun to watch. But at Junto, I was like, I told you about it, and your excitement was so cool. I was like, no matter what, I'm going to try and get you into this group. And we hadn't even thought about opening the doors for new members. There's about 20 of us at the time. But your reaction was just like, okay, I'm in something great, which validated what I was doing, but also how excited you were about it. You already kind of had some background.
Well, I definitely didn't see that coming from you, knowing that what I knew about Junto and was trying to start it way back closer to, 12 years ago after college, trying to get my, some buddies to do it that all went their geographical different ways. So it didn't work out. But coming from you and the way that you were talking about the summit, I could tell like this was different. Like, you're a positive guy, but you lit up when you were talking about this group, and it was evident to me that there was something a lot more than just a networking group, with this thing as you were describing it when you were talking about the summit. So I knew there was something to that.
Yeah, it was a complete mindset shift. I could see the opportunity even early on what it could do. I'd already learned a few things and picked up a few nuggets from the group. I mean, at the end of the day, you're in a room with people that are at or way above where you want to get, and you're just continuing to grow together. And so it aligned for me. And after we talked about it, it became very apparent it aligned for you. So we went to that summit that year in August 2021, and it was decided that we were going to open it up for new members. And I immediately called you. I was like, dude, we're getting you into this group. And so you've been in over a year, about a year and a half. So it's been incredible so far.
Yeah, over a year. And then with that first summit that I was a part of, they kind of throughout the design committee had asked for people to educate, and were really adamant about new members contributing. And we both wound up giving presentations at the summit, and that really is kind of the catalyst of how we wound up here right now. So maybe you can kind of talk a little bit about your presentation at Summit and kind of how that started with what you've been working on the side.
I remember December 2021, we'd gone through the first summit. We do it in August every year in Flagstaff, Arizona. And the design team, kind of was like, okay, we're going to start planning next summit. And I remember raising my hand saying, hey, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to take a session. I didn't know what the hell I was going to talk about though, right? I mean, I'm in a business of payroll and HR, and I knew one thing was for sure. I was definitely not going to talk about payroll and HR with this group. But it was something I just raised my hand and challenged myself. I knew I'd come up with something I wanted to be impactful. And so it became all around opportunity, right? Joined this group because of actions and on opportunities that we took to get to where we are today. And I really reflected on my life and the things that I said yes to and the pivotal moments that happened in my life. And I thought, well, if this worked well for me to reflect on these things, I bet this would be a cool topic to do with the group. And so I ended up spent 6 months researching my session and built it from scratch, and out of it came what is called the OppoFlow mindset, and built that framework. And I just remember the session, I kicked off our summit, which was pretty cool because I had a lot of visual effects kind of and transitions with the PowerPoint and music, all that stuff. So it was a great way to kick it off, and I got a lot of positive feedback. But I think what you're talking about when you jumped on your session, was it the next day or the same day or later? I can't remember when it was, but there was a lot of overlap, and it had a lot to do with flow and the flow state and the mindset and how you take care of the asset, which is your mind, body, soul. And so yours was a deeper dive into the science and the things that you do to take care of that, dive into that research. So that was the catalyst to launching this. And so talk about what you hit on, because yours was incredible and you were vulnerable too. And in those kind of groups, there were some things I didn't know about you at that time that I learned about you at that. And that was a great way to continue developing the relationship, but also open it up for people to realize that, hey, they're not alone in certain situations if someone else is talking about their story.
Yeah, your session kicked us off so well. It was a perfect tone setter for the weekend, because we were trying to get into the right mindset of why we're there. Why are we taking 3 days to improve ourselves and get in the zone? And it just really hit with everybody. And I thought it was interesting because as we were prepping for these sessions, we didn't communicate. It was supposed to be isolated and keep the information separate, so no one really knew. And then I heard your presentation. You like the word flow is in yours. There's a lot of minds of like, shoot, like, are we going to be too much overlap? But then as I listened to your presentation, I'm like, no, these are completely different. And so I kicked off day 2 after bringing in an external educator with some fun cold exposure and breath work. But my session was really, like you, I wanted to share what had helped me get past some of the biggest hurdles in my life, which in knowledge work really was for me figuring out how to get into focused flow states, showing up as a business athlete, taking care of the fundamental stuff, sleep, nutrition, hydration, and really keeping in mind that we have a limited amount of time, and each of the decisions that we're making showing up in our professional lives are shaping that reality. So we both got great feedback, which was a relief, because you never know when you're creating something from scratch. You never know how it's going to be received. That was a first. And I'm just couldn't be more pleased that it actually had an impact for the guys up at Gentle. It looks like we're going to be doing round 2 and running it back, trying to bring more value this year.
I know. I'm excited about it. I've already been working on it, and round 2 is going to be even better. Just because of that action by saying, yeah, I'll give a session. And similar to you, I know you're the same way. After you get that positive feedback, you start diving into it even further and building out more and more and more. And at the end of the day, we talk about this a lot. We're all creators, and we just want to build, and we're happiest when we're creating things and developing and on a mission. And everyone has their own perception of success and happiness, and it's vast. And as long as you're staying on the path to achieve growth towards your success and happiness, that's all that matters. It's about the journey getting there. And
absolutely. And it's been wild to see like how you really run with it. Like it wasn't just a presentation and then done. You've really gone on to continue to build out a larger framework of messaging, not just this one presentation. And it's been really inspiring to see as I'm trying to do this as well, that we are stepping into that creative, purpose-driven mode where we're not just consuming and just sitting in front of screens. We're actually creating and putting something out in the world. So that's been really inspirational for me to see.
Dude, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of fun. It's reinvigorated so much more energy back into my life and in others and my team and whatnot. But talking about this podcast, we've got the name SuccessFlow Podcast, right? And I remember when we were trying to come up with the name of it, you were kind of like hesitant, even though it was your idea. It was your call to do the SuccessFlow, and I loved it. And you're kind of like, I don't know, can we call it SuccessFlow? But how'd we come up with the name?
Well, yeah, I think there's a little. I was second guessing it because you're putting something out into the world, and it's like, is there some arrogance here, like putting success in our podcast name as we're trying to create? And at the end of the day, after we went back and forth, it was pretty evident that success is very relative, and every individual is defining it for themselves. But once we got past that, and realized the overlap with the flow piece, there's a nice play on words with successful and SuccessFlow, and I thought that it just was very aligned that we are trying to help just relay some stories, snippets, and frameworks for people that are trying to, potentially define their own level of success. And I know I was pretty confident with what we're working on. Anything that we can share and pass along is going to help people fill some of those gaps.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it. I think it's great. And we added a little in our logo, we added a little bamboo shoot in there. You sent me this story on why we added the bamboo shoot, or we added it because you sent me the bamboo story, which is about a Chinese farmer. And you're much better at telling the story than I am. And I've stolen it. I'm sharing it with my team because I think it's great. But tell us the bamboo story.
Yeah, I think that, like, as we were just chatting through this and why we're doing it, the bamboo story is so relevant, right? Because bamboo is an extremely hard nut, because it's a hard, difficult wood. And farmers in Asia used to get, when they were first starting bamboo farms, used to get a lot of flack because they take a ton of nurture, water, sunlight, and attention to get to really cultivate the seed before you see anything. So it'll go not 2, 3, or 4 years of watering, sunlight before you're seeing any benefits. Nothing has grown, and then in that 5th year, that bamboo shoot in 6 weeks will shoot up 80 or 90 feet. Exponential growth, which looks like overnight success, which is a lot like people in the real world. You're putting in consistent work, hammering on your craft, making little 1% improvements day in and day out, and then 10 years from now, you know, people will call you an overnight success. I think that's what we're doing. We're sharpening the sword day in and day out to try to get the results of that bamboo tree. You never know what's going to come. It may not be year 5, but that story of the bamboo keeps me going. You have to keep watering. You have to keep nurturing to get those results that you're looking for down the road. So I thought it was just spot on for what we're trying to do and kind of the stories that you and I have been living.
Yeah, I love that story. And, you know, as we talk about building a life of flow, right? And that really resonates, and tried to have more focus on our craft and our, you know, what the tasks at hand and the things that we're building in your mindset shift. And so when you talk about a life of flow, what do you mean by a life of flow? You've had this for a while, and I'm getting into it in the last 12 months or so, but explain a life of flow and what that means to you.
Yeah. So flow, and I know we're going to get into this in future podcasts, but a flow state is a state where you feel your best and you're performing your best. Most people have experienced it where time dilates, or, you know, there's a sense of self that leaves, and the task, you're so absorbed in the task at hand that everything else kind of disappears, and you just wind up knocking it out. And you're like, what just happened? Most athletes and almost all gold medals have been won in a state of flow. So this is a state that we can recreate. It's not just accidental doing a hobby, but if we can reincorporate it into our work, we're going to be able to move the lever and really get the things done that need to be done and enjoy it a heck of a lot more. And I know you've talked about that a little bit as well.
Yeah, I remember my basketball playing days in high school, you know, as where I ended my career. But it was, when you're in the game, and it's the best way I can relate, or kind of, you know, use an analogy of what flow state is in an easy way, is when you're in the game, nothing else matters. You're just focused on the game, and you're not controlling your body. You're moving, you're playing the game. And so that is the most amazing feeling. And even later, when I was running half marathons, you get in that runner's high, right? And you're just cruising, and you're not thinking about anything but that run. And that mile 6 through like 10, you get this runner's high, which is incredible. But I love that stuff. I love hearing it. We talk about it a lot. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I can't wait to share more stories and more life of flow episodes or discussions as we continue this pod.
Well, dude, I think that's a wrap. I think that's our pilot. Everyone, you can kind of reach out and give us a follow if you like this. Shoot us a message. We're a little bit more informal now, but shoot Steven and I a message or an email thinking about what you would like to see. You can also shoot us a note. We're super official at the SuccessFlowPod@gmail.com, giving us that feedback. We're looking forward to having some guests on in the future. We're going to continue bringing value, a little bit less about us next in the future, but at least you have a good taste for what we're trying to do here at the SuccessFlow Podcast. So thanks for joining in, subscribe, and we'll talk soon.